Hello students, in this unit 5, we will be discussing about debugging techniques. The contents of this unit are testing on host machine, instruction set simulator, dataset macro, debugging techniques using laboratory tools. In this video, we shall now discuss about testing on host machine and debugging techniques using laboratory tools. So we shall first discuss about what is testing on host machine. While developing any embedded system software, the developer will develop the code with lots of bugs in it. The testing and quality assurance process may reduce the number of bugs by some factor. But only the way to ship the product with fewer bugs is to write software with fewer bugs. The world is extremely intolerant of buggy embedded systems. The testing and debugging will play a very important role in embedded software development process. The goals of testing process are: it helps to find bugs early in the development process, exercise all of the code, develop repeatable and reusable tests, and leave an audit trail of test results. We shall now discuss about each of the testing process one by one. First, we shall discuss about find the bugs early in the development process. So this saves time and money. Early testing gives an idea of how many bugs you have and then how much trouble you are in. But the problem with this goal is the target system may not be readily available or the hardware may not be completely ready to test the code. Next comes exercise all of the code. This exercise all of code is a condition where you have to write the code for all the exception cases which you think that they never happen. Take an example of a laser printer. A laser printer may have the code to deal with the situation that arise when the user presses one of the button just as a paper jams. But in real-time condition, to test this case, we have to make the paper jam and then press the button within a millisecond, which is quite impossible. Third one is develop reusable, repeatable test. It is frustrating to see the bug but not able to find it. To make this happen, we need to do repeatable test. But this is difficult to create repeatable tests at the target environment. For example, in the barcode scanner, while scanning, it shows all the previous scan results every time. As it shows the previous scan results every time, it is difficult to find the bug and fix it. Leave an audit trail of test result. We know the example of Telegram. This Telegram, we doesn't know what is the data being sent or being received by the Telegram. But we store the data which is being sent and received. The difficulty or the problem with this testing whole process is it is difficult to keep track of what is being sent and what is being received. That is, it is difficult to keep track of what results we have got always, because most of the embedded systems do not have a hard disk for storing all these results. So now it is very clear that we have to not test the code onto the target. Instead, it's fine or better to test the code on the host machine itself. And to the other alternative of this is to test your code on the host system. Now, there is another test or the technique which is used for testing. So here in the figure it shows a basic technique to test. Here we have two systems, the actual target system and this is the test system which is used to test our code, and each of the systems, the hardware independent code in each of the systems is being compiled from the same source. The hardware dependent code and the hardware of the target system is being replaced by the test scaffold code in the test system. In this test system, the test scaffold code can take inputs from keyboard, and it has a display to display if any of the errors are being crept in, and this is the disk for storing the results. So this test scaffold code provides the same entry points as the hardware dependent code does, and it calls the same functions as the hardware independent code. This test scaffold code takes its instructions from the keyboard or from a file, and it produces the output on the display or into the log file. So using this technique, you can design clear interface between hardware independent software and the rest of the code. And next, we shall discuss about various laboratory tools that are used for debugging. The first tool is the voltmeter. Voltmeter is used for measuring the voltage difference between 2 points. The common use of voltmeter is to determine whether or not the chip in the circuit have power. The system can suffer power failure for any number of reasons: broken leads, incorrect wiring, etc. The usual way to use a voltmeter is it is used to turn on the power. Put on one of the meter probes on a pin that should be attached to VCC and the other pin that should be attached to ground. If voltmeter does not indicate the correct voltage, then we have a hardware problem to fix. Next, ohm meter. Ohm meter is used for measuring the resistance between 2 points. The common use of ohm meter is to check whether the two things are connected or not. If one of the address signals from microprocessors is not connected to the RAM, turn the circuit off. Then put the two probes on the 2 points to be tested. If ohm meter reads about 0 ohms, it means that there is no resistance between two probes and that 2 points on the circuit are therefore connected. The product commonly known as multimeter can function as both volt and ammeter and also the ohm meter. Next comes the oscilloscope. It is a device that graphs voltage versus time. Time and voltage are graphed horizontal and vertical axis respectively. It is an analog device which signals exact voltage but not high or low. And the features of an oscilloscope are: you can monitor one or two signals simultaneously. You can adjust the time and voltage scales fairly wide in a wide range. You can adjust the vertical level on the oscilloscope screen corresponds to ground. With the use of trigger, the oscilloscope starts graphing. For example, we can tell the oscilloscope to start graphing when signal reaches 4.52 volts and is raising. And these oscilloscopes are extensively used by hardware engineers and also used by software engineers. The oscilloscopes functions are: these oscilloscopes can be used as voltmeter. If the meter the voltmeter doesn't show properly a reading, so this can be connected to an oscilloscope so that it displays a graph of the particular voltage being produced by that particular signal. If the line on the oscilloscope displays fat, then no clocking signal is in microprocessor and it is not executing any instruction. Use oscilloscope to see as if the signal is changing as expected. We can observe a digital signal which transition from VCC to ground and vice versa, shows there is a hardware bug. This is the figure which shows the oscilloscope. It consists of two channels and two probes. Each probe has round lid, a short wire that extends from the head of the probe and so that it can easily attach to the circuit. It has numerous adjustment knobs and buttons which allow you to control. Some may have on-screen menus and set of function buttons along the side of the screen. And these are some examples of the outputs which we obtain out of the oscilloscope. The first one, a reasonable clock signal, a questionable clock signal, a dead clock signal, a ROM chip selection signal, which are displayed in the oscilloscopes as outputs. Then comes the logic analyzer. The logic analyzer is also similar to oscilloscope, which captures signals and graphs them on the screen, but it is different from the oscilloscope because a logic analyzer can track many signals simultaneously. And this logic analyzer, it knows only two voltages, either VCC or ground. All logic analyzers are storage devices. They capture signals first and display them later. And these logic analyzers have much more complex triggering techniques than oscilloscopes. Logic analyzers will operate in state mode and as well as timing mode. Now we will discuss logic analyzer in timing mode. Some situations where logic analyzers are working in timing mode are if certain events ever occur. So now the example for this is, consider a barcode scanner. Whenever the barcode scanner ever turns the radio on, we can attach the logic analyzer to the signals that controls the power to the radio. We can measure how long it takes for software to respond. And next example we can take here is for underground tank monitoring system, to find out how long it takes the software to turn off the bell when you push a button. So this is the output which is being displayed on the logic analyzer display, and this is distance between tick marks and location of X marker line relative to the trigger. Logic analyzer display showing RTS data and CTS signals, and this is how a logic analyzer will look like. So these logic analyzers, they have display screens similar to that of oscilloscopes. Most logic analyzers present menus on the screen and give you a keyboard to enter choices. Some may have mouse as well as network connections to control from workstations. Logic analyzers include hard disk and diskettes. It can be attached to many signals through a ribbon. Since logic analyzer can attach to many signals simultaneously, one or more ribbon cables typically attached to the analyzer. Now logic analyzer in state mode. In timing mode, the logic analyzer is self-clock. That is, it captures data without reference to any events on the circuit. In state mode, they capture data whenever a particular event occurs, called a clock occurs in the system. In this mode, the logic analyzer see what instructions the microprocessors fetch and what data is read from it and write to its memory and I/O devices. To see what instructions the microprocessor fetch, you connect the logic analyzer probes to address and data lines of the system and RE signal on the ROM. Whenever RE signal raise, the logic analyzer captures the address and data signals. The captured data is called as trace. The data is valid when RE signal raise. State mode analyzers present a text display as state of signals in row as shown in this figure. So this figure tells you how the data is being stored. And now coming to the use of logic analyzer for software engineers. So it helps the software engineers to trigger the logic analyzer if processor never fetch if there is no memory. Trigger the logic analyzer if processor writes an invalid value into a particular address in RAM. Trigger the logic analyzer if processor fetches the first instruction of ISR and execute it. If we have bug that rarely happens, leave processor and analyzer running overnight and check the results in the morning. There is no limit filter what is captured. Next comes the emulator. In-circuit emulator. This in-circuit emulator is also called as ICE, and the function of this ICE here is it replaces the processor in the target system. This ICE appears as a processor and it can be connected to all the signals and drives. It can perform debugging, set breakpoints. After breakpoint is hit, we can also examine the contents of memory registers, see through the source code, resume the execution. Emulators are extremely useful. It is having the power of debugging, acts as a logic analyzer. And the advantages of logic analyzers over emulators are logic analyzers will have better trace filters, more sophisticated triggering mechanisms. Logic analyzers will also run in timing mode. Logic analyzer will work with any processor. With the logic analyzers, you can hook up as many as or few connections as you like. With the emulator, you must connect all the signal. Emulators are more invasive than logic analyzers. So these are the different debugging techniques using hardware laboratory tools where we can use them for debugging the hardware code and as well as the software. Thank you, and in the next video we shall continue with instruction set simulator and the asset macro. Thank you.